Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Podium eSports coverage of the 5th round of Season 2 of Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring. Tonight, it's the Toby Christie.com 120 live from iRacing's virtual version, the 2008 Phoenix International Raceway in Avondale, Arizona. James Pike, the voice of Podium eSports, here alongside Taylor Burris and our producer Ryan Bauer. And TV, this is a classic combo by iRacing standards. Everybody's seen this. I think a lot of people have run this at some point. The street stock in particular, all oval drivers start by racing this very car. So everybody's got experience in it, but it's the car track combo that makes tonight interesting. Phoenix, and Old Phoenix in particular, throws a bit of a curveball.
It certainly does. I mean, we were watching during practice here tonight. These cars are slipping and sliding. Trouble is going to be happening off corner exit of both turn 2 and turn 4. And we're going to see a lot of exciting passes, battles, and of course, accidents throughout tonight's race. But these drivers only have one fast repair, so one mistake and they have a freebie. After that, it is all lights out for them if they're not able to get their car fixed. But this track will provide a lot of exciting battles. And of course, one thing I'm going to be looking forward to and seeing who can maintain the best car control off turn 4. That is going to be the most fun to watch, and we're going to be seeing a great show tonight.
Take a look at where we are in the world via Google Earth. Not terribly far away from the state capital of Phoenix in the Valley of the Sun, but you head a little bit to the west, about 30 minutes, and you drive into Phoenix International Raceway. But this is, again, back in 2008, and you notice immediately the dogleg is smaller, it's a little bit more forward, and there's grass over there. You can't cheat it, you can't cut it like we see drivers do so often in this particular day and age. So a bit of a throwback race here and a bit of a fun one at that. And this race is one that could go a lot of ways. When we were last year with Podium eSports in some sort of capacity at this track with this car, it was part of the replacements iRacing series set up by Kevin Hanlon and DJ Major, spotters in the NASCAR Cup Series. And that race was a little bit wild, to say the least. But I talked to Ford Martin, and I talked to a lot of the drivers involved in some of the practice races this week. And they said that, especially with the way iRacing updated the tires after the build, that there was a lot of side-by-side racing, didn't really have to worry about too many wrecks, a lot of entertainment, I think, and a lot of momentum-based racing, since this car isn't necessarily the most powerful of machines, Taylor. So that could make it very entertaining for a lot of these drivers.
It certainly is. And if you think about it, most drivers, when they get started in the world of motorsports, especially in the oval side, as far as with full body race cars, starts off in a street stock. I mean, who can remember when Dale Earnhardt Jr. used to tell a story about his career in a street stock? So a lot of people have a lot of similarities and also feel fond of these cars because of just the simplicity of this car, as well as ways to drive, as we take a look at the points.
The street stock in iRacing actually won from Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s collection. That was one of the very first cars that iRacing scanned way back in advance of its release in 2008. We take a look at the point standings coming into tonight. We have 4 races, 4 different winners. Kyle Busch, Dick DeGroot, Preston Pardus, and Parker Kligerman have all gone to victory lane. They have both locked in their places into the All-Star race on February 2nd and in the playoffs, which will start later in February of next year. A lot of drivers, though, with a lot of opportunity to get into the top 13 in points, so not necessarily over just yet. At this time, we'll step aside for pre-race ceremonies and take a moment to present our national anthem. Time to take a look at the grid for what would normally be a last chance qualifier, but instead is just a race for placement. We have 40 entries tonight and 40 spots available, so nobody's going home, and these 8 drivers are racing for the final 8 spots on the grid, starting with Michael Massey, who set a time at 32.402 in qualifying to take top spot in this heat race, ahead of Garrett Miller. Brett Baldock at a Fox 46 WJZY in the Charlotte metro area starts 3rd. Mark Revelis, photographer extraordinaire for USA Today, starts 4th. CR22 Chad Reed will begin this heat race from the 5th spot. 6th will be the 46 of Stephen Ellis for the Hockey News. Paul Sutton, one of the admins in Monday Night Racing, will roll off from the 7th spot, and Steve Font holds the final spot on the grid. He will start in 8th. Take a look at the track facts momentarily, get you acquainted with Phoenix International Raceway for the first time. And yes, we do mean Phoenix International Raceway. As we said at the top of the broadcast, this is the 2008 configuration, so this is before they reconfigured it not only once but twice and redid the pit road last year. Still a 1-mile track, 1.609 kilometers in length. Opened all the way back in 1969, but banking a little bit different. 11 degrees of banking in turns 1 and 2, 8 degrees of banking in turns 3 and 4, flat straightaways all the way around. We go in this heat race for 15 laps. It'll be followed by an 80-lap feature. We will bring you in its entirety in just a little bit. Before we get going, we remind you all that tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing is brought to you by Tufco Flooring, an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. Tufco doesn't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach, and neither should you. Tufco listens to your needs and requirements and develops custom solutions for every client. And for more information, you can visit their website at www.tufcoflooring.com. Rubber already beginning to build up as the track state carries over from practice and qualifying, so there are proper marbles for drivers who end up getting loose and getting sideways, which you have to try in these street stocks to make that happen, but it's not totally out of the realm of possibility. In any case, we're glad that you're with us here on Podium eSports as we get set to bring you coverage of round number 5 of Monday Night Racing. The Toby Christie.com 120 is underway. On the heat race side, as Michael Massey jumps out ahead by maybe a car length or two. Garrett Miller does the same, so it's Brett Baldock and Mark Ravillas who will go door-to-door for the third spot and be the first side-by-side battle as they hit the backstretch of the dogleg for the first time.
Still going to be side-by-side through the dogleg. Brett Baldock is going to hold taut on the top side, inside lane, while we see Mark Ravillas trying to hold on as best that he can. Gets up into the marbles, has to back off a little bit, lose a little bit of ground as he makes slight contact with Brett Baldock as they go 3 wide off of turn 4.
About to say, no shame in trying to move people as Ellis is going to drop to the inside, and the 46 will get around the 4 machine as Baldock will try and roll the momentum up high down to the inside. 1 car sideways, 2 cars sideways in the back. It's Steve LaFont and Paul Sutton who got dinged and knocked together as Sutton did a nice little bounce there through the grass and tried to wheelie the car. Almost looked like he had some sort of nitrous jacks in the front end, but in either case, it's Massey and Miller who are still nose to tail up front, and now up front by a good bit. This is a great battle between Ellis, Baldock, and Reed developing for the third spot in this team.
They're time to get down into turn 1. Chad Reed will get to the inside of Baldock for that 4th position. Really try to pull the slide job. He will complete pass off turn 2, but Brett Baldock will try to battle it out through the dog leg as they make the run over to turn 3.
Baldock waiting for his opportunity to maybe get underneath Chad Reed. Going to try and start the corner high, end the corner low, and get down to the bottom. And Reed is going to get down there to block just the same, or at least tried to. But almost. I thought that Baldock might actually get into the 22, maybe turn him in the middle of the straightaway. He had the momentum to get alongside Chad Reed, but decided against it, so he'll stay behind the 22 machine as Garrett Miller and Michael Massey continue to trade spots out front.
Certainly a great battle between our top 2 as well. They have a little bit of lap traffic in front of them. That's the 37 of Paul Sutton as they come off of turn number 4. But looking at it, Garrett Miller is able to pull about a 2nd lead over Michael Massey. As you see, he's trying to break the trap a little bit away, keep that number 27 behind him as they dive it into turns 1 and 2. But it's pretty much a 2-car show for the race lead as they come off turn number 2 as they gain about a 1.4-second lead over Stephen Ellis.
2-car show indeed, and we will make sure that you all won't miss a second of any of it. And also worth noting that everybody here is going to qualify. We don't have any more entries, no new spots available in the starting grid like we did last week when we ran the super late models at Michigan. So all of these drivers will start the feature race this evening. The question is where they will start. And Garrett Miller and Michael Massey look like very solid bets to start 32nd and 33rd in this, or 33rd and 34th rather, in this, because they have jumped out to almost a second over Stephen Ellis, Chad Reed, and Brett Baldock, who continue to fight but also continue to lose ground to the 2 leaders.
They certainly are. They gained a little bit of ground, but after that lost some time now. It's now 1.4 seconds still off of turn number 4. Stephen Ellis just sliding off of turn number 4. Great job to keep the car under control. But Chad Reed will try to take a peek to the inside once they dive it into turn 1. You notice that there's slight contact, both of them drifting through turns 2. But a great drive for both these 2.
You figured it was coming at some point with the way Reed just sent it on down to the inside of turn 1 that time. And Brett Baldock had the opportunity to get alongside the 22, but checked up again and decided to wait his turn. So Baldock really waiting for the right opportunity. That makes me wonder whether or not we're going to see something extravagant here, maybe too much. He got down on the apron and almost got his number 4 machine loose. Will have to settle for a place right behind Chad Reed in the pecking order. Baldock currently scored 5th with 7 laps complete.
7 laps completed here. Let's see if anyone has anything for Garrett Miller or Michael Massey as they go down the back straightaway through the dogleg. Towards this configuration, they can't go below that yellow line, otherwise they'll end up in the grass. So have to keep it right here on the black pavement. Have to continue through here through turns 3 and 4. Ellis having a nice line off corner exit as Chad Reed tries to make a little bit of a wider exit off corner as they guide it down, head down the front straightaway into turn 1. But Chad Reed just trying to find a way to get to that inside.
Reed's done a nice job, as has Stephen Ellis, who started in 6th, that is now up to 3rd, but smacks the fence and leaves the door wide open for Chad Reed to come down through on the inside on the exit of turn 2. It's a tight one, it's a tricky one, and it's the same sort of issue that we've seen regardless of whether or not it was this Phoenix or the newer configuration that had the start-finish on the long one is now back straight away. But Ellis just clipped the wall there as the corner tightened up on him, and all of a sudden it's Chad Reed up to 3rd.
Certainly is. Looking at lap times right now, Chad Reed actually ran the fastest lap last time by out of the entire field. So he definitely has something for a race leader. The only problem is he might not have enough time to gain up onto the top 2 as they go down the back straightaway. Heading into turns 3 and 4 right now. It's about 1.5 seconds between him and our race leader as they come out of turn number 4. Chad Reed starting to separate himself from Stephen Ellis.
5 laps to go at the stripe as Garrett Miller leads Michael Massey by about a car length. These two look like they're very content to just ride around, knock out these few laps, and maybe get a little bit of practice in race conditions, which I think is the biggest thing that these drivers will benefit from when we get to the featured race. Just trying to make sure that they pick up a few more tips and tricks and get a feel for how this track is going to rubber up, where the grip is going to be. You're going to see a lot of rubber laid down by these street stocks. They're not necessarily efficient at saving tires, so you're going to lean into what gets put down on the track a lot. And in that sense, these cars are very akin to the 1987 Cup Series cars that arrived on iRacing in the summer. The Thunderbird and the Monte Carlo both lay down rubber in a very similar way, but the street stock, if I remember serves me correctly, is maybe about 4 or 5 years older than those Cup cars, so maybe not a surprise then the tires wear very similar.
Look at the lap times right now. Chad Reed just laid down, again, the fastest lap right here out of the field with a 32.43. He is just shy of a second between the top 2 in front of them. The only problem is he's running out of time, but with Garrett Miller catching up to lap traffic, that's going to slow him down quite a bit now as they now go through turns 1 and 2, getting by Steve Affon and now Paul Sutton as they come off of turn number 2 right now, and this is going to give a lot of opportunity for Chad Reed and Stephen Ellis to gain ground.
It would have given the opportunity for Reed to gain ground, but Reed got tight off of turn 2 and lost pretty much everything that he gained on Stephen Ellis. So Ellis will have the opportunity to potentially grab 3rd back before this race ends, as Miller and Massey have now cleared the lap car of Paul Sutton, running, I believe, Nissan GTR Skyline colors, or at least decals from the early 1990s.
At that car, it looks like it might be correct on there. But really nice. That's one of the nice things when it comes to painting here on the iRacing service, especially with street stocks that you have here. You can put just about any manufacturer you want on this car to make it whatever you feel like, and we'll be seeing some amazing, great, crazy paint schemes throughout the race here with these street stocks in there a little bit.
Only in iRacing are you going to see a car looking like a Crown Victoria leading a car looking like a Skyline, but that's part of the beauty of it, as you just noted. So, last lap here of this heat race. Garrett Miller, Michael Massey, 1 and 2. Chad Reed, I think, is going to hold on to Stephen Ellis, who just clipped the fence again. So Ellis will have one more shot, maybe in 3 and 4. But at this stage, it's all about just sort of wheeling it in. And Massey with the big stand, he went for it and smacks the fence, and they're all going to wreck over in the middle of the corner. And Chad Reed just came straight through the middle. So Massey, who had 2nd locked up, is going to slide down the order, and Miller will maintain the lead for the win ahead of Chad Reed. And then it was Mark Rapadas who came through to get 3rd after all that madness in 3 and 4.
It certainly was madness, as more madness continues in 1 and 2, as Garrett Miller tries to celebrate his little heat win to get ready for the big show, which we're about to have here.
So now time for the starting grid for our 80 lap feature. Garrett Smithly with the fast time at 32.052. He was up in the mix last week in his season debut at Michigan. Anthony Alfredo, who missed the first race and has strung together a top 5 finish in every race since, will start second. Max Kinnon begins tonight from the 3rd spot. Last week's winner, the 90 of Preston Portis, begins in 4th. Nick Sanchez had a strong run at Michigan in his season debut. The Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring. He'll start P5 this evening. Stephen Wilson, IndyCar driver, rolls off from 6th. Graphic designer for Podium eSports, Gary Sexton, begins tonight from 7th. Writer and announcer Devin Henry will start tonight's race from the 8th spot. 9th on the grid with the 2000 Xfinity Series champion Jeff Green. And 10th is the man who has got more points out of anybody else in the field who's yet to win a race. Matt Stalkina is the highest man in the standings outside of your 4 winners. He begins tonight from the 10th spot.
Starting in 11th will be Will Rogers, followed by the co-owner and founder of Monday Night Racing, Ford Martin, in 12th. Robbie Lyons will be starting in the 13th position, followed by DJ Cummings in 14th. Rajah Kuruk will be starting in the 15th position, followed by 2-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Kyle Busch. And Monday Night Racing Season 1 champion Nick DeGroot will be starting in 17th, followed by NASCAR Xfinity Series driver Ryan Vargas in 18th. 19th is Gabriel Woods. Rounding by in the top 20 is going to be Bobby Labonte, former NASCAR Cup Series champion.
Dylan Welch and Brandon Brown will make up row 11. Row 12 to Jesse Vaughn and Chris Wilder. Row 13, Josh Slate and Seth Eggert. 14th row will be Noah Lewis and Ron Capps. Jason Keffer, Greg Stump, Kobe Moore complete the top 30. Then it's Drew Welker, Garrett Miller, Chad Reed, and Mark Verbillis, Stephen Ellis, Michael Massey, all the drivers that you saw in the last chance qualifier. 80 laps tonight here at the old version of Phoenix International Raceway. Just under 160 miles, just over 250 kilometers that they will run in the heat of the Valley of the Sun in the desert. 101 degrees Fahrenheit track temp as we go racing from Phoenix International Raceway. We're underway with the Toby Christie NAPA 120. Season 2, round number 5 of Monday Night Racing. Fans off into 1 and 2 for the first time. And Smithley with a very nice job to nose ahead of Alfredo. Meanwhile, how about Max Kinnon looking to the inside of the 90 of Preston Portis?
Great battles as we see that battle between Preston Portis as he dives it down to the inside, working his way through the field, working that top side off of turn number 4. He's going to have a great battle as they come across the start-finish line to complete lap 1.
One lap of 80 in the books and plenty of room to go. How about Anthony Alfredo already beginning to pressure Garrett Smithly, who is working his car for all it's worth. And we mentioned that the tire wear is pretty significant on these cars. Also a very distinct lack of grip as Alfredo gets to the inside of the 51 machine for the race lead. But you can slide these things around really easily because they do not latch onto the racetrack. These noses are not sealed off. There's not that much horsepower. These things slip, they slide. They're plenty entertaining to drive, but they certainly don't have much in terms of power and prowess on their own.
Tires, stick management, and control of your race car will be the keys to victory here as they work off of turn number 2. Big group of cars as Rajah Kuruk gets a little bit sideways in front of Kyle Busch for the 15th position, but overall everyone just minding their P's and Q's early on in the race as they dive it into turn 3 and 4. 2-wide battle for the race lead between Alfredo and Smithley.
Alfredo and Smithley continuing to go wheel to wheel for that top spot. And right behind Max Kinnon, looking like he's learned a few tips from his boss man, Kyle Busch. Kinnon, of course, a mechanic at Kyle Busch Motorsports and has had speed in some of these early races to Monday Night Racing. Maybe not quite the finishes that he's wanted, but he's been up there. He's been in the mix without question. So no surprise in that sense to see the 21 near the front early on in this race.
Certainly has as we keep an eye on that battle. A little bit of contact between him and Preston Portis. Portis goes up the racetrack, is able to gain control of his race car and continue on his way, but now has to hold off Stephen Wilson as they'll go side by side, 2 by 2, about 3 rows deep.
Top 6 all running door to door to one another. How fantastic, how wonderful, how wild it can get if these drivers get loose and get sideways. And then once you clear the top 6, it's settled out at least a little bit, unless you count Jeff Green and Gary Sexton running nose to tail. But there's a bit of a gap here between Will Rogers, who you just saw win at Lime Rock in the IndyCar and the Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge over on the main Podium eSports Twitch channel. Matthew Stalkina, who's had such a strong start to the season top man of the point standings outside of your race winners. He's there too for Martin, just sort of in his own. And then another really good pack, starting with DJ Cummings, one of the championship 4 drivers from a season ago. That's where Raja Kuruk is. That's where Kyle Busch is. That's where Devin Henry is. And same sort of battling there that we're seeing near the front of the field.
How about this? Nick Sanchez in the number 96. He is going to try to go to the inside and get around race leader Anthony Alfredo for the race lead. He was able to get around Garrett Smithley for second as they come off turn the 4 down the front straightaway. A great battle act now as he's still got that nose underneath the inside of Anthony Alfredo to try and still battle for the race lead. But Garrett Smithley trying to work his way out on the top side of the racetrack. Can't quite make the pass complete as they come off turn 2 down the dogleg.
You saw the onboard cams from a few of the drivers in this mix, and you saw just how tight it can get in the middle of these corners. You've got license to bounce off each other. These cars are pretty well built, not necessarily going to cause much damage. As Smithley gets moved up into the fence and set up, there was contact from Max Kennan. I couldn't tell where else and who else was involved in that, but I know the 21 was involved to start it, and all of a sudden, I think Kennan just overdrove the corner and bounced off, and then it was Preston Pardus who finished off the 51. You'll see it on your replay and get a better idea of what happened, and that's exactly what it was. 21 gets tight, bounces up to the 51. Pardus has nowhere to go, and Garrett Smithley all of a sudden well back in this field.
He certainly is all the way back to 17. All that momentum and plus with that damage to that number 51 street stock, he is going to be struggling right now as they come off turn 4. We'll have to keep track of his progress as he works his way back up to the field.
Anthony Alfredo scored your race leader that last time by as Nick Sanchez to the inside of the 33 car. Max Kennan now with a good run to third. He separated himself from the group that was all around him maybe a lap or two ago. So it's the front 2, and then Kennan, and then door-to-door again between Pardus and the 25 machine and Stephen Wilson, between Jeff Green and Gary Sexton. You may as well go ahead and throw Will Rogers and Matthew Stahl connect into that mix, and maybe Ford Martin as well.
I mean, it's all hornet's nest of competitors here in these street stocks, just buzzing, trying to find the opportunity to get to the inside, get to the outside, get a pass completed here, avoid an incident there. I mean, everywhere you look, there is a great battle as a little bit of contact happening between Jeff Green and Gary Sexton off of turn 2. They're able to keep it under control and move on, but we now have a new race leader. Nick Sanchez in the 96 has taken the race lead.
Well, there was contact between Green and Sexton. There was also contact between Sanchez and Alfredo. It was very slight. You had to be looking very closely to notice it, but it was enough to upset the balance on the 40 machine. And all of a sudden, here comes Nick Sanchez to the race lead with Max Kennan in tow in turn 2.
Great battle for the race lead as Kennan looks to the inside of Alfredo down the back straightaway through the dog leg as they try to make it work. Alfredo, though, has a nose over Max Kennan before they get to turn 3, but Kennan will work the inside and have that advantage to try to help earn the car a little bit. He gets a little bit sideways, trying to get the car back to the bottom of the racetrack off of turn number 4, but can't complete pass. He'll drop back to third, but still has a bit of a gap between him and Preston Pardus as they're going to go 3 wide for 4th position into 1.
Very convenient here, and some road course ringers at that. Will Rogers gets a bump there from Stephen Wilson and gets loose. That slows down to 65. Wanted to see if Jeff Green might be able to take advantage of it on the inside, but couldn't find enough room to get under Will Rogers, so he'll stay in line behind the 65 and try and get Stephen Wilson, who's trapped there on the outside of the 45 machine of Jeff Green. As Gary Sexton and Matthew Stahl connectors right there behind these two, also racing door-to-door, and maybe Raja Kuruk. Well, he thought about taking it 3 wide and then thought better of it.
He certainly did as Gary Sexton and Stephen Wilson get together. Slight more contact, beating and banging. Kyle Busch goes around. Will he be able to save his race car? No, he will go to the inside wall, make contact. He has to back it up and get back on the racetrack. No caution out just yet. He was off the racing line, but he has lost all the way back to about 35th, 36th right now.
If we didn't get a yellow flag for Kyle Busch, we had Ford Martin on his lid entering turn number 3, but big issues there. It started with what you saw on your screens with that whole incident between Gary Sexton and company in turn 1. It ends with the 65 of Will Rogers getting run over by Ford Martin. Rogers picked up some significant damage in the turnabout over in turn 2, and then all of a sudden it was on from there as Jeff Green makes contact with the 65 in the middle of the dogleg. And Rogers bounces off the fence with heavy engine damage, and then Ford Martin just has nowhere to go and immediately goes upside down. Stephen Wilson was caught up in that. He didn't really have anywhere to escape. Looks like Brandon Brown also got swept up in that incident. few more cars involved. Robbie Lyons in the 39 was there. He got T-boned by Jesse Vaughn in the 17. About 4 or 5 or 6 different things you'll see it on your screen. All of a sudden, you see the 07 pop up above everybody else, and then it's a mess entering turn 3.
Certainly is. Now the question will be, who will come down pit road to get service on their cars? Our race leader Nick Sanchez and Anthony Alfredo decide to come down pit road. As for the drivers who decide to stay out, Preston Hardis, Jeff Green, Matt Stallknecht, Gary Sexton, Ryan Vargas, they decided to stay out along with several other drivers, all the way by the looks of it to about Robbie Lyons. So the top 12 did not hit. The rest of the field did decide to come down pit road. Actually, more coming up to catch up to the back of the field.
Officially, it'll be the top 18 that have decided to stay out. Also of note, down to 1 fast repair for these drivers over the course of this race. We started off the season with 3 of them. We are now down to 1 of them, and there are certainly a few, of which Will Rogers is the most obvious candidate to me, given the engine damage that he sustained in that incident, who will almost certainly be using his fast repair to stay in this race. Meanwhile, top 18 all stay out. So everybody from Preston Pardis all the way back to Steve Affont will be on 15-lap old tires and whatever else that may bring, which, to be fair, we have a sense of it, Taylor, but we might not necessarily be certain what to expect.
Certainly don't. I mean, you are going to have to keep track and see who will be able to survive this on this restart. I mean, these drivers are now sitting about 16-lap old tires now, so these drivers are going to see what they can do. We will probably see a little bit of tire spin from some of the drivers, but if drivers such as Preston Pardis, Jeff Green, Stallknecht, and Gary Sexton were able to take care of their tires to a degree, they may be able to be okay. But fresh rubber always, most of the time, wins out when it comes to racing here in these street stocks and at any oval circuit you go to.
Waiting on Preston Pardis and Jeff Green to get us going. Those two are your first 2 cars in that front row. Then Matt Stallknecht, Gary Sexton. You've also got Ryan Vargas in the mix with DJ Cummings. Plenty of work to come as P-Money will get us going. The 2-time Spec Miata SCCA national champion rolls off, and we're back on the way in the TobyChristie.com fantastically wonderful 120, shall we say, at Phoenix Raceway. Pardis with that good run to the inside ahead of Jeff Green. Sexton going to try and find a lane in front of Stallknecht, which he does, so it strings out the first maybe 6, 7, 8, 9, go all the way back to Kobe Moore and Seth Eggert. I think that'll be you for a side-by-side battle off the restart.
Yep, Seth Eggert going to look to the inside of Kobe Moore. They'll go side by side through turns 3 and 4, but it's going to be Kobe Moore who will maintain that outside lane to be able to maintain the 12th position off turn 4 as Seth Eggert tries to slot back in to make another run towards position before they get to turn 1.
Eggert there looking to the inside, waiting to see if there are any more battles to watch, and DJ Cummings looking for a spot underneath Matthew Stallknecht, but it was wild and woolly around Seth Eggert. Looks like there might have been some contact as I saw Greg Stump from the 78 end up way up on the top side without any help whatsoever as Garrett Smithwood continues to make his charge back to the front. He's got Roger Carruth in tow.
Look at Nick Sanchez. He was towards the back half of the field. Now he's up to 14th, trying to get around Seth Eggert. With those fresh tires, he's going to take a peek to the inside as they dive it into turn 1 and easily be able to get to the inside. Will he complete the pass? The answer will be yes. Off of turn number 2, sets his sights now on the 15 of Kobe Moore.
So Kobe Moore, the next one in line, up for Nick Sanchez, who's the first driver on the fresh tires. He's up to 13th after restarting in the 16th position. Next up on that list, Max Janadu had some early speed in this race as well. But we are going to get a good sense, I think, in this race of just who really has speed and just who is hanging on old tires at best.
Certainly is, as we take a look at the battle for the race lead between Jeff Green and Preston Pardis, and throwing Gary Sexton into the mix as they come off of turn 2. Sexton's going to get behind Jeff Green, now go below him right on that yellow line, but has to back out to make sure he makes the corner. But Preston Pardis working the outside lane to its best of his ability, holding strong as Jeff Green tries to just slide it through turns 3 and 4.
He tried to slide it. Ryan Vargas actually slid it just behind this group back in the 5th spot and just about went around. It was very tight for the driver who's in the number 23 car, the black and white car, which I believe is a throwback to some of the early cars he raced at Irwindale Speedway. Vargas, of course, from La Mirada, California, SoCal native, so plenty of well-versed experience on that wonderful short track down in Southern California, which really has become sort of the cradle of all grassroots racing in the Los Angeles area.
Certainly is, and of course, recently with the recent build of iRacing, they decided to do a little bit of an update with their figure 8 configuration, of course, adding a little ramp for those who are fans of rallycross racing. So always good to see iRacing adding a little bit of updates to have fun with us here, especially at Irwindale.
Can't forget about the Pro 2 and the Pro 4 trucks as well, which we also know are some of Ryan's favorites. We'll take a look at Kyle Busch. If you're wondering where the 51 is after spinning around on that first yellow, the answer to that question, 21st. He's just hanging out behind Greg Stump from All of Access Paint. Those two just sort of riding around waiting their time, although Busch, I think, may want to try and follow Seth Eggert and Garrett Smithley, who look like they've got fast machines. Smithley, of course, your pole sitter for tonight's TobyChristie.com 120, and likely going to be back up towards the front before the end of this, so long as nothing crazy happens, but that's a big if, as Smithley rides in the back of the field, and Jeff Green now goes to the inside again of Preston Pardis to try and get the race lead.
He might be able to clear Preston Pardis off turn 4. He will complete that pass, but Preston Pardis gets right on the back bumper of Jeff Green off at turn 4 to see if he can make a move. He cannot at this time. Will he dive to the inside in turn 1? Nope, gives him plenty of room trying to make the corner as they go through turns 1 and 2. Gary Sexton looks on along with Matt Stallknecht in 4th position as they come off turn number 2. But Jeff Green now leading the field here at Phoenix.
Jeff Green doing a very nice job of hanging out front in the 45 machine, carrying the Nice Motorsports colors, the Chevy accessories, black and white car, and of course this street stock based off of the old Chevy Camaros of the early 1980s, so not a shock to see fair and healthy Chevrolet representation in this field. I guess in theory you could count the front 3 cars as Chevrolets, no question. And then maybe we'll see. I wonder if Matthew Stallknecht wants to tell us what kind of car his is or is not, but certainly looking Camaro-ish, although Harris Lee, who put together the paint scheme, probably would be able to tell us the actual answer to all this. So maybe, Harris, if you're in the chat, clear that one up for us and let us know what kind of car Mr. Stallknecht is driving in the 41 tonight.
Fun little fact, if I'm looking at things correctly, Jeff Green actually does have a win at Phoenix back in 2001, so he's in familiar territory here running the older configuration, so he is right at home as he's currently holding on to that race lead over Preston Pardis. He is doing a great job of doing that as they go down into turns 3 and 4. Gary Sexton and Matt Stallknecht still holding strong in that 3rd and 4th position. Ryan Vargas, as well as also DJ Cummings, having a good battle off turn 4. But here comes Preston Pardis to the inside. He'll take a peek, but will slide back in line.
Pardis thought about it and didn't quite get the run, so the battle here will slide a little bit further back to Nick Sanchez, who continues to charge on the fresh tires, this time to the inside of Gabe Wood in the number 50 machine, who's got all kinds of red and yellow and big fun on his car, a big face on his car as well.
Certainly has, as they work their way through. It is Mr. Flex Seal on the hood of that car, actually, so it's pretty funny to see him using his sponsors here.
I was aware that it was Mr. Flex Seal. I didn't want to get too much into it, but if we're there, we're there. So
we might as well.
The Mr. Flex Shield machine is there in P number 9 officially, just ahead of Dylan Welch and Devin Henry, who are the last 2 cars on old tires before you get to a crop event on new tires, which starts with this Anthony Alfredo machine, the whitetail smokeless Chevy Camaro. He's in 12th. Raja Kuruk is on fresh tires. Will Rogers is on fresh tires. Max Canada is on fresh tires. Garrett Smithley, Kyle Busch as well. And that's everybody from 12th to 17th. So Welch and Henry at risk of losing some track position. And Henry, I think, recognizing that Alfredo and company have the fresh rubber, will just let the 33 go on underneath. We'll see if Dylan Welch does the same.
We'll find out if Anthony Alfredo is closing into the back bumper of Dylan Welch for that 10th position as we see some 3-wide action going into turn 3. Teammates getting together. Nick Sanchez, Stallknecht, as well as DJ Cummings getting into it. And more contact as Cummings is up in the air and finally comes to a landing after a couple of contacts with him. And it looks like no caution as now the caution finally comes out.
Caution was out pretty early there as Cummings put together his best attempt, probably the best attempt we've seen of the evening to join the Podium eSports Space Administration. Got some air when he got hit by Gabe Wood at the corner. We'll take a look at the replay, see what happened. There was 3-wide racing, and it was actually his teammate that he bounced off of. I'm not sure whether or not TJ Cummings got it as Stallknecht or Stallknecht got into Cummings, but in either case, the 10 car is the one that goes around. makes contact with the 50 of Gabe Wood, and then it's the contact off the fence, and poor Max Kinnon, who just absolutely T-boned the 10 machine that sent him up about 10 feet into the air and threw a pretty solid barrel roll to boot. A few more drivers involved in trouble in this one, along with the 21 and the 50 machine. Looks like maybe a few other drivers just snuck through the end of that, but for Kinnon and Gabe Wood and the 10 machine of DJ Cummings, there's your fast repair, no question.
Yep, pretty much safe to say fast repairs will be incoming for these drivers, and unfortunately for DJ Cummings, with him having to take a tow, he will be put a lap down for right now unless another caution comes out.
We'll take a moment to bring you all sorts of side-by-side action under the yellow flag, and take a moment for us to step aside, but don't go anywhere. We'll have more Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring when we return. It's the TobyChristie.com 120 2008 version of Phoenix International Raceway on Podium eSports.
We are an industrial flooring company specializing in custom floors and drains. We don't believe in the one-size-fits-all approach to flooring, and neither should you. When you choose Tufco, we consult with you about your needs, industry requirements, and factor in numerous variables. After assessing your facility, we engineer your floor and drains, then install everything ourselves. That's the Tufco way.
Visit our website at tufcoflooring.com.
Back on Podium eSports here at the TobyChristie.com 120 at Phoenix International Raceway. James Blank, the voice of Podium eSports, alongside Taylor Burris and our producer Ryan Bauer, bringing you all the action from the Valley of the Sun, where Ryan Vargas has inherited the race lead. He stayed out on old tires and is yet to come down pit road, so Vargas will lead us to this next green flag ahead of Nick Sanchez, two young up-and-coming drivers to lead us to green. And I guess if you count Anthony Alfredo is up and coming, perhaps make it 3 at the front, but Alfredo with some Xfinity Series time as well as Ryan Vargas. So those two going to see if they can trade it out and battle it out amongst each other, with Nick Sanchez and Devin Henry with a solid run. Henry, of course, Arizona native, so this is home turf for him. You imagine he'd put together a good run at a track that you would like to think he'd know pretty well.
Would certainly agree with that. And then right behind him, rounding out the top 5, running the Windale Scott colors, is Raja Kuruk, who is also looking forward to seeing to be one of the future stars of NASCAR here, as he's currently running in that 5th position, alongside, of course, the 65 of Will Rogers, another future star of the NASCAR Cup Series down the road, as he'll be starting on the outside of rows of 3.
Well, Rogers there looked really good in that IndyCar Lime Rock over on the main Twitch channel just a bit ago. Got the victory in the Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge, as we mentioned earlier, but going to have to drive his way through the field a little bit here. But on the second cycle of tires, shall we say, 18-lap old tires on the number 65, and then you go back from 14th on, and everybody else just came down pit road. Preston Portis is part of that bunch. Nick DeGroot is part of that bunch. Kyle Busch in the mix as well, as we get set for green flag racing on lap 34 of 80. Vargas and Sanchez to lead us to green. Back underway. Vargas takes off. Solid restart from the number 23 machine, who will jump in front, as a big block there from Alfredo to hold Raja Kuruk at bay. And looks like Nick Sanchez will just fall in line and let everybody battle it out for third on back.
Nick Sanchez and Ryan Vargas just checked out from the field as those two battled for the race lead. And if you go for third on back, it's a hornet's nest of competitors trying to jockey for position, get in the right zone to where they can battle and race their way through and catch up to Ryan Vargas and Nick Sanchez, as those two will battle for the race lead off of turn number 4. And with Sanchez fresher tires compared to Vargas, he will take over the race lead.
It's 2x2 up front. It's about 3x3 out back. You go back to Noah Lewis, Nick DeGroot, Matthew Stallconnect and company, and it's 3 wide all over the place. So I've got 9 back there just in case something happens. But Sanchez takes over the spot, as Alfredo will now be the one to try and fight Ryan Vargas, as Vargas slides back on the old tires. Meanwhile, Gary Sexton and company way in the back of this field. I think that's what we'll turn our attention to now, just because it is far crazier around P10 than it is around P1.
It certainly is. Look at this gaggle of cars just trying to jockey for position as we see Nick DeGroot, the Series 1 champion, trying to find a way to get around Gary Sexton. He'll look to the top side of the racetrack, now diving right behind Gary Sexton to try to get around the 22 of Chad Reed as Reed gets really loose off of turn number 2. Is able to gain control of his race car and continue on his way, but they'll get by the 17 of Jesse Vaughn out around the dog leg as they dive into turn 3.
Noah Lewis with the nose damage there, and almost some contact between Stalkenek and Lewis in the number 98 car. Nearly another yellow flag. Now he does get turned. The 98 does go around. Stalkenek finished him off that time, and it looks like a few more cars got up in the back of this. Seth Eggert with nowhere to go, but the yellow flag out once again. Even more wrecking down the front straightaway. I saw Ron Capps and Brett Baldeck swept up in that too. We'll take a look at the replay in just a few moments to show you everybody involved. You see the 33 of Jason Keffer on your screens, but that definitely started with the 98 of Noah Lewis and the 41 of Matthew Stalkenek.
It certainly did as those two go around on the front straightaway, and then of course you see Ron Capps getting a little bit of a tap from Brett Baldeck as well as the 45 of Seth Eggert. That's what put him up inside that outside wall right there on the start-finish line. So tough break for Ron Capps along with Seth Eggert, and a couple other drivers they're going to have to come down pit road to get that fast repair if they have not used it earlier.
Stephen Wilson in the 25 was another one that was involved with Paul Sutton. Those are the final few names that got caught up in this particular incident. So everybody resets under the yellow flag. Another opportunity for these drivers to come down pit road if they so choose, but not too many takers under this yellow flag. Looks like everybody, for the most part, will hang out front and be all right.
Into the field right now. Good run for the number 18 of Bobby Labonte, running the SRX colors here tonight. He's working his way through the field. Started in 11th, now inside 8th, top 10, right behind Kyle Busch in the 51. So he's been having a good night. Let's see what he can do as he continues on his way here as we're approaching the halfway point.
Big week for the Superstar Racing experience now, wasn't it, Taylor Burris? A lot of driver announcements and a track announcement, too.
It certainly was. I mean, we have a lot of great things, and also the final rendition of what the cars will look like. And if anybody has gotten the chance to see what these SRX cars are going to look like, I got to say it's nothing like I've ever seen before, but it's going to be an exciting series to see. I mean, you have Formula One stars, you have IndyCar champions, NASCAR champions, and so much more coming out here. Of course, one of the young guns I would have to say would have to be Ernie Francis Jr., the 7-time Trans Am champion, joining the ranks of the SRX.
Is it just me, but when I look at that car, do you get, 1970 Dodge Charger, sort of, the Super Speedway Superbird vibes, the Pete Hamilton 1970 Daytona 500 winner, like that sort of car? Do you get that sort of feel just with the way the wings just shot up way up into the moon like that?
I certainly do get that feeling, and I think that's kind of what Ray Abraham and Tony Stewart wanted to give. I mean, just a car that we have not seen in quite some time that will provide great competitive racing and very easy to set up and build. Of course, those cars will not be really set up by the drivers per se, more so by Ray Abraham and a group of amazing engineers and personnel to help bring competitive racing starting in the summer of 2021.
Maybe not a surprise, Ray Abraham, Tony Stewart coming together to piece together just something wild and crazy like this, but you also get a bit of the IROC vibe as well, which I think a lot of people miss seeing Pontiac Firebirds go at it in every sort of crayon color under the sun more than anything else. I think that's one of the best points we remember about IROC racing, just how colorful those fields were and how entertaining those races were, given that those cars were pretty significantly underpowered.
They certainly were, and one of the things I'm most looking forward to with the SRX is, in the early days of the IROC series, we saw a lot of competitive drivers from all forms of motorsports. Towards the end of the IROC series, we saw more towards the NASCAR drivers coming to compete in that series, but now I think the SRX might have to be throwing it back to the original days, where it was not just NASCAR stars, but IndyCar, sports car racing, Formula One, and of course, dirt track racing. I mean, you name it, these drivers will bring their A game when it comes to the SRX series.
It's a tall rear wing, as you can see on your screen. It's a very, very tall rear wing. Should be a lot of fun, though, I think, when we get racing in 2021. We'll focus back here, though, on the TobyChristie.com 120 at Phoenix International Raceway, which has just cleared the halfway point. We'll see if we get another green flag run in or if we end up with another sprint to a yellow flag. But as it stands, it is Nick Sanchez and Anthony Alfredo that will lead us to green. And both of those two drivers are on 26 lap old tires. Ryan Vargas is still out on the set he started with, as is Devin Henry, as is Greg Stumpf. It's the only trio of drivers that have yet to come down pit road for service. So we'll see whether or not they drop in the field or if they've managed their tire wear well enough to maintain the track position. As Sanchez gets us going once again, Anthony Alfredo will drop, or at least try to drop in front of the 99 of Raja Kuruk. But Kuruk got a great restart and immediately got to the inside of Alfredo to take over second.
What a pass for the race for second place right now, as Nick Sanchez is pulling away from the rest of the field as they go down the back straightaway through the dog leg right now, keeping an eye on that battle for second, as that third and fourth position looks pretty feisty right now. Vargas as well as Garrett Smithley are battling hard as they go through turns 3 and 4. Slight contact between Kuruk and Anthony Alfredo as both of them get a little bit sideways, continue on their way, but Vargas will capitalize on that mistake for Kuruk. He will get third position away as they dive into turn 1.
Biggest issue, though, Devin Henry goes around to bring out the yellow flag, and he caught up poor Bobby Labonte. We just talked about the superstar racing experience under the yellow ad nauseum, and I almost wonder if we put the commentator's curse on the 18 machine, because Labonte had nowhere to go, tried to go to the outside of Henry and avoid the incident, and just got caught up. You'll see it right here on the screens. Labonte nowhere to go, hard into the outside wall and in need of a faster pair, almost certainly.
Certainly indeed. Tough break for the former NASCAR champion and SRX driver as he tries to get down pit road and will have to get that faster pair done as quickly as possible.
So now the big question, who comes down pit road for service? And Anthony Alfredo and Raja Kuruk thought about it and then faked back on pit road. First car that is actually going to come down, maybe not surprisingly, the 18 machine of Bobby Labonte.
Yeah, pretty much everyone inside the top 16 has decided to stay out. A couple of other drivers are also going to stay out on the racetrack. Mike Stallknecht, Dylan Welch, I believe also Gabriel Wood, and also Kobe Moore. So pretty much everyone except Bobby Labonte and a couple of drivers towards the back half of the field are coming down pit road.
Lots of work to be done for some of these drivers. And again, only one faster pair for these drivers. So going to have to be very mindful of where they sit when it comes to how torn up these cars are and whether or not you want to burn the faster pair early on to make it happen. At this time, it is time to bring you our iRacing Midway Race Break, which as always is brought to you by iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport. Virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in Australian supercars, IndyCar, IMSA, NASCAR, the World of Outlaws, and more. As Nick Sanchez is your leader ahead of Anthony Alfredo. Ryan Vargas on the 45-lap old tire sits third at this point. Raja Kuruk is up to fourth after starting 15th. Garrett Smithley has climbed back. He got tangled up early and set into the fence and was about 15th and has raced his way back to fifth after starting on pole. Kyle Busch is up into P6. Seventh is Will Rogers in the 65. Gary Sexton's been a top 10 car all night. He's eighth. Ninth is your season 1 champion of Monday Night Racing, Nick DeGroot, and Greg Stumpf currently rounds out the top 10.
Jesse Vaughn sits in 11th, followed by former NASCAR Xfinity Series champion Jeff Green in 12th. Motocross champion Chad Reed sits in 13th, followed by SCCA Miata champion Preston Pardus in 14th. Brandon Brown sits in 15th, followed by NHRA champion Ron Capps in 16th. Matt Stallknecht sits in 18th, followed by Dylan Welch in the 18th position. 19th is Gabriel Wood. Rounding out your top 20 is Kobe Moore.
Stephen Ellis sits in the 21st position at this time. 22nd belongs to Garrett Miller. Max Kinnon has been involved in a few incidents, and I just don't think he's had the track position to get back up to his top 5 starting spot. He's 23rd. Josh Slate holds the 24th position. 25th belongs to the 26th car. That's Chris Wilner. Robbie Lyons, who you heard as the analyst alongside Blake McCandless on our Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge broadcast earlier, currently runs 26th. Noah Lewis, the 98 is 27th. Mark Rovillas is the 28th car out on the field. 29th is Drew Welker, and 30th belongs to Jason Keffer.
31st is Bobby Labonte, who was just caught up in that recent caution, followed by DJ Cummings in 32nd. Seth Eggert sits in 33rd, followed by Paul Sutton in 34th. Dylan Henry sits 35th, followed by Michael Massey's in 36th. Stephen Wilson is 37th. Steve Affont is 38th. Brett Baldeck is in 39th. And rounding out your 40-car field, 8 laps down, Ford Martin.
And that concludes tonight's iRacing Midway Race Break. With over 170,000 drivers on the service and over 90 laser scanned tracks and cars to choose from, iRacing is your portal to the racing world. Get on track today at iRacing.com. Also of note, when Ford Martin flipped earlier, he forgot to check the fast repair box, and that's why he's buried in the field but still running. It'll need some help and some yellows to get some wave arounds as we go back on the green flag racing on lap 47 of 80. Sanchez on point. Oh, Ryan Vargas got very loose in the middle of 1 and 2, so he'll give up second to Anthony Alfredo, who might make a run to the inside, maybe down to the outside, and maybe back to the inside again to get a foothold on the 96.
He is definitely struggling out there, trying to hold on to the best of his ability. Of course, Vargas, who's been out there on 47-lap old tires, he is still trying to remain strong on there in 3rd position, but he's going to have to hold off a hard-charging Rajah Kuruk and Kyle Busch as they'll go side by side down into turn 1 as Alfredo tries to get around Nick Sanchez.
They have torn it up on the front straightaway en masse, and the yellow flag is out once again, and everybody was dead at that point. We'll go back and see what happened on the replay, but it looks like Greg Stump might be the guilty party to start. And then a little bit of contact with the 45 of Jeff Green, but Stump was already over-rotating and on the gas a little bit too early on corner exit. He bounces off the 45, then bounces back into the fence and into both Preston Pardus and Chad Reed on the front straightaway. And everybody was everywhere once those two started going around.
It's safe to say that the track was blocked once those 3 drivers of Pardus, Brown, and I believe also Massey were just completely sitting nose to tail across the track, had to wait till they get cleared before they could continue on, as more cars actually got caught up in that incident when they were trying to sort it out.
Big mess over here. You see just a few of the names that piled up in this. Chad Reed was involved. Robbie Lyons got damaged, as did Gabe Wood. Stephen Ellis was caught up in this. Ron Capps had nowhere to go. Chris Wilner was smack dab in the middle with his best buddy Dylan Welch. They ran into each other trying to get out of the mess in the front straightaway. Brandon Brown for Richmond Raceway eSports was involved in this incident, as was Garrett Miller in his machine. The 78 of Stump started it, of course. Stephen Wilson around the front straightaway again. Noah Lewis with damage. The 48 machine of Josh Slate caught up in this. The 15 of Kobe Moore involved as well. I think everybody else managed to just get on the brakes in time, but about 10 to 15 cars swept up in this incident as Reed ends up on his lid and will need a little bit of help. And Stalkanek has some damage to the left front of his machine that he will have to bend down. He's out of fast repairs already.
That's going to be a tough break. He's going to have to come down pit road, get that damage fixed. But unfortunately, with just how quickly these caution laps are here, he will not have a lot of time to get that car fixed and back on track without losing a lap. So tough break for him as we are just closing in on 30 laps to go.
Tonight's broadcast of Monday Night Racing is brought to you by TobyChristie.com. Toby Christie has been a fan of cars going in circles since 1993 and a passionate member of the NASCAR Media Corps since 2007. Christie is also the co-host of the Final Lap Weekly NASCAR Podcast, which is the longest-running NASCAR podcast of all time. Christie is an NMPA award-winning writer, and for more information, you can visit his website at www.tobychristie.com. You know, anytime Toby Christie comes out, we'll see Christie involved in watching somewhere. I have to imagine that Michael Carey on the staff at TobyChristie.com also watching this race somewhere as well. So a big hello to you two and to all the staff at TobyChristie.com. And a big thanks for your support on Monday Night Racing tonight from Phoenix International Raceway. And yes, when we say PIR, we do mean PIR because this version of Phoenix was called PIR. We are at the old Phoenix. You see all that grass on the right side that's not there anymore on the reconfigured Phoenix? iRacing scanned this originally in 2008. It was part of the first batch of scans when iRacing initially established their roster of NASCAR Cup Series tracks. So we have the preserved version of old Phoenix. We'll have the Phoenix that was reconfigured, and then yet to be scanned is the new Phoenix, where We went for championship weekend last month, but eventually that will come to iRacing as well. We just need a moment to let the pandemic go through and process itself a little bit, get it a little bit safer for the scan team up in Massachusetts to get out and about and actually go collect the data they need to bring back to the offices outside of the Boston area and let iRacing's engineers go to work to start building some of these form tracks. But eventually, we will get new features. Restart coming here on lap 53 of 80. Nick Sanchez, Anthony Alfredo still 1-2. Vargas doing a very nice job on the old rubber in P3. And Raja Kuruk hanging out in fourth with Kyle Busch in P5, who didn't necessarily have the speed at the start of this or the luck. He got turned around coming out of turn 2 in the opening 10 laps of the race. But since then, it's been a steady recovery job for KB, and all of a sudden you get towards the end of the race and the 51 Rowdy Energy car looks pretty sporty, as there's a little bit of an incident there between Nick Sanchez and Anthony Alfredo at the start of this. Not sure what happened between those two, but they bounced off each other right before the pace car pulled off, and they continue to go door to door off into turn 1. Sanchez will take over top spot, second to Anthony Alfredo. Raja Kuruk trying to get the spot on Ryan Vargas on the outside.
I think what that incident caused was when Ryan Vargas got right up on the bumper of Nick Sanchez. He just put a little bit too much bumper and almost turned Nick Sanchez around. That's what caused it. As those two make more contact, diving into turn 3 and 4, Sanchez and Alfredo, as Alfredo will slide right across the nose of Nick Sanchez for the race lead as they both get sideways off turn 4.
Alfredo was sideways, and it might be 3 wide for second if Vargas has anything to say about it, but the 23 backs out of it ever so slightly. And look who's behind Ryan Vargas, the man who got sent up into the fence in those first 10 laps, who started on pole. Garrett Smithley has nearly completed the comeback as Raja Kuruk now pushing Anthony Alfredo down the backstretch.
Everyone's pushing, beating, and banging the way these street stocks were meant to be raced as they come off of turn number 4. They're still battling 2 by 2 for the race lead. 4 cars under a blanket, and then you got also Garrett Smithley, Will Rogers, Kyle Busch, and Gary Sexton looking on as they now dive into turn 1 now as we got a bunch of battling here for the race lead.
It was 3/100ths of a second to Anthony Alfredo. No, 2/100ths of a second to Anthony Alfredo at the line the last time by. If you want an idea of just how tight these two are running, but Raja Kuruk is not making it easy for the 33. He is all over the rear bumper of Alfredo's machine, and Alfredo has gotten loose on a few separate occasions as Kuruk's given him some blood taps, and that's allowed Sanchez to edge ahead because Vargas is not putting near the same kind of pressure that Kuruk is on Alfredo at this junction.
He certainly is not as they work their way off of turn number 2. Looking on that battle, though, for 6th and 7th position right now. Gary Sexton gets a great run on Kyle Busch. He'll look to the inside if he gets a little bit of help from Nick DeGroot now as they go down into turns 3 and 4. You now have cars 2 by 2 by 2, 4 rows deep as Sexton will try to get around Kyle Busch off of turn number 4 to take over that 7th position.
Good move there from Gary Sexton to get to the inside of KB and take over the position. Meanwhile, Alfredo has cleared Nick Sanchez out front. And the real question is, what can Raja Kuruk do now that he's got the outside as one car goes wide in the corner? That was, I think, maybe Ryan Vargas. It was indeed, as Vargas got wide out of turn 2 and had to check up. So now here comes Garrett Smithley to the inside of the 23 machine to try and get P4.
Another driver who went wide was the 69 or 65 of Will Rogers. He will drop back, losing positions to both Gary Sexton and Kyle Busch, as Kyle Busch and Will Rogers will go side by side for that 7th position. But 3 wide now for the race lead.
To say it's 3 wide for the lead that matters is, oh, there goes Nick Sanchez into Anthony Alfredo, and they just about went around off of turn 2. And how about Raja Kuruk, who is on that 3rd lane on the outside, trying to pass both of Sanchez and Alfredo to take over the point.
Look at them all, 3 wide sideways, pretty much off of turn number 4. Who will survive it? As both Vargas and Garrett Smithley will go side by side for the 4th position. Could we see 4 wide battling for the race lead?
Maybe, just maybe, there's the width in Phoenix to pull it off. It's just a matter of how you make it work, as Kuruk is completely on edge and sideways and almost lost it off of 2. But Nick Sanchez is the one who comes out the victor of that 3-wide battle, and we have another 3-wide battle, which now becomes 2. I think Raja Kuruk has had enough of that top lane as Ryan Vargas hip checks Anthony Alfredo back to the outside and takes over the 2nd spot.
Big hip check indeed. I'm pretty sure Anthony Alfredo is going to keep that in the back of his mind towards the end of the race, as Vargas on over 60-lap-old tires, still out there battling with these drivers who have newer and fresher tires, as Alfredo hits the wall off too.
Alfredo got sent again, but I will say, if there's a driver that knows how to work the street stocks, Ryan Vargas is it. The street stocks are one of his favorite cars in all of iRacing. Plenty of experience with these things, so if there's somebody who knows how to drive a car like this, I have to believe that Vargas is one of them. And in that sense, I'm not totally surprised that he's the only one who's yet to come down pit road, and yet he still is right in the mix for the race lead. Now maybe about 2 or 3 car lengths back the 96 of Nick Sanchez.
He certainly is right now, and looking at his lap times, he's running fairly competitive lap time. There's only a couple of drivers inside the top 5 who are a little bit faster. His lap time, though, a 32.27, so just a little over a tenth slower than our race leader, Nick Sanchez. That's incredible tire conservation.
Skill, I think, is the more accurate term from Ryan Vargas in the 23. Raja Kuruk has settled into 3rd, and I wonder if he might be trying to save his tires after he burned them up pretty well on the outside. He was not afraid to hang out the rear end of his 99 machine, and so Kuruk is just going to try and follow Vargas, maybe learn a thing or two for a bit as Sanchez continues to go, or not. Here comes Kuruk to the inside of 23, looking for 2nd.
Certainly has indeed. He's looking for that 2nd position. Will he be able to complete the pass off of turn number 4? He will not this time. They'll still be side by side. Vargas with the advantage.
If you're Garrett Smithley, where do you go in this case, knowing that you also have one of the fastest cars in this field and the ability to turn the fast lap too? He sat on pole tonight. Do you hang on the outside, maybe see if you can get Vargas to work, or eventually is this going to be Raja Kuruk's position now that he's got a foothold on that inside lane?
It could be a position for Vargas to hold on that outside lane, but Kuruk with the inside and pressure tire, he is able to hopefully make that pass off turn 4. But for Garrett Smithley, he may have to make a hole and make room and make a 3rd lane for him in order to get around, because right now he is currently roadblocked between the 2 drivers of Vargas and Kuruk as well, and has Will Rogers right on his bumper, who is not being patient whatsoever. He is waiting for an opportunity to make a pass on Garrett Smithley as they go down through the dogleg. So we could see Garrett Smithley take it 3 wide, and he almost decides to do as Kuruk shuts the door on him.
Oh, Raja Kuruk went wide and nearly got into Ryan Vargas and had to back out of it at the last second. And this may be the opportunity Garrett Smithley needed. But Will Rogers, you bring up a good point. Rogers has been able to reel this trio back in as they've been fighting each other. And Nick Sanchez continues to get away. It's now maybe about 4 or 5 car lengths, because neither Kuruk nor Vargas want to outright decide who wants that 2nd position. And all it's done is bring Rogers into this fracas and keep Garrett Smithley at bay. But Smithley now decides to go to the inside. He goes of the 99.
Nick Sanchez is grinning from ear to ear. Remember last week at Michigan in the Super Late Models, he was one of the top competitors to take home a win, but unfortunately could not pull it off and win the race last week. But now he has that opportunity. Can he pull it off as the rest of the field is battling? He is pulling away about 7/10 of a second, separate him from Kuruk.
Starting to bounce off each other. Raja Kuruk nearly got turned on the front straightaway by Vargas. Looks like Smithley almost got into Will Rogers that last time by. Meanwhile, Nick Sanchez is in great shape. He's almost 0.8 of a second clear to the good of this, as Kuruk finally is able to clear Vargas, who gets moved for good just to ensure that he drops a little bit further back by Garrett Smithley. So Smithley now in 3rd, Kuruk up to 2nd, and Will Rogers to 4th as Alfredo goes to 5th, and Vargas falls all the way back to P6.
Crazy battles as we see Smithley once again hits the wall off turn 2, gets sideways and hits it. Just a little bit of a kiss, not like what he had earlier on in the race where he absolutely pancakes the wall, but he's going to still keep on going, battling with Will Rogers for 3rd.
What does Raja Kuruk have for Nick Sanchez, and how much did he burn up racing his way to get 2nd outright? That's one question we need to pay attention to. The other is whether or not any of these drivers in this back directly behind Vargas might have something, although Jeff Green and Gary Sexton just got into one another, and it allowed the group to jump ahead of both of them and take over the 7th spot. But good little battle there. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, all in the line, all the way back to DJ Cummings, and then throw Gary Sexton and Jesse Vaughn into the mix too. You can stretch it back to 11th.
He certainly is. A gaggle of race cars battling it out for position right now as we keep an eye on this battle for the 6th position right now. It's 7th position as Nick DeGroot holds on over Jeff Green. TJ Cummings making a nice recovering run after nearly going up to join the Podium eSports space program, but unfortunately he landed back here on Earth to continue on his way running 9th position.
I would say, fortunately, he landed back on and got it straightened out in his back running in the race. I'd rather see him on track than part of the space administration, as Kuruk has cut into Sanchez's lead by a little bit. It's down to 5/10 from the 7 that it was a little bit ago. We'll see if Smithley can run even faster laps and run them both down. But everybody in this front 5, front 6, they've decided it's time to settle down and start running down Sanchez, because if you don't run down Nick Sanchez, it's all over. And you've got to at least be there with the race leaders to have a shot to win this thing. If they keep fighting each other, it's just going to be Sanchez versus Kuruk as we come to 10 to go this time by.
Last time by, Kuruk was about a little over a tenth faster this time, and he has definitely gained some more ground on race leader Nick Sanchez as they come across the line. He was almost 2/10 faster than Nick Sanchez right now, as we see Kuruk get a little bit loose off turn 2 and lose all that time he gained that now as the caution comes out.
Caution flag is out with 10 laps to go, and it looks like it's Stephen Ellis in the 46 that is the reason for the yellow flag. Big incident, and a classic curb knocker. We've not had one of those yet, I think, in Monday Night Racing competition, but he caught the edge of the pavement and the grass, and it shot the car right up, and the damage from that contact blew the motor on the 46. There were a few other drivers. Max Kinnon got swept up in this. I think Stephen Wilson got some damage as well, but a few drivers that ended up paying some track position as Ellis's car eventually ground to a halt over in turn 4.
Tough break indeed for Stephen Ellis, as you know, that was just a tough break for him. I mean, causing a couple of cars some opportunities to gain some more positions, but the caution is out. They may be able to come back on track, go down pit road, and get some damage repair. But unfortunately for some of them, I think they've already used their fast repair, so they're going to have to do the normal time of damage repairs. So they have to come down pit road, wait to see how much damage they have on their clock to get it fixed and get back out on the track. But not a lot of time left on the clock.
Who takes tires? That's the big question. The top 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stay out. Who bites? Kyle Busch is the first one to make the move down for tires back in 13th, and it looks like everybody from about maybe 17th or 18th on will join him. So most of the drivers at the front are going to stay out on what they have, which I think in Vargas's case is especially particular, because Vargas has not pitted at all, not taking advantage of any fresh tires. So at this stage, if you're staying out, you have what you have. You're just going to race with the car that you've got underneath you. Not even going to worry about track position or tires. You're just going to see what you can do to fight your way to the front in this final handful of laps. We have one green-white checker available to us as well, if necessary.
I don't think Kyle Busch is going to be able to pull off what he did at Talladega either here. I mean, it's a great strategy call for him to come down pit road. He did hit the wall a little bit ago off of turn 2, so he down get some of that damage, get some fresh tires. But tall order for Kyle Busch to try and pull up what he did at the season opener at Talladega.
Well, we said that about his run at the season opener at Talladega. We weren't necessarily certain that it was the right call, and he drove straight through the middle of the field to get the victory. So I think in fairness, he's earned the right to not be ruled out of this. So I'm not going to rule out the possibility that Kyle Busch can come through this field and win. However, I think the degree of difficulty is much higher because this is a flat track and these cars will be more spread out, and it's a little bit harder to take advantage of fresh rubber on a street stock at a flat track than it is to take advantage of fresh rubber and a fresh car at a super speedway with a cup car. Much less fluidity through the field. We'll take one more side-by-side break and then bring you the final few laps of action from Phoenix International Raceway. It's round 5 of season 2 of Monday Night Racing. TobyChristie.com 120 will continue in just a moment on Podium eSports.
For years, people had to get professional tools off of a truck.
That's me.
But we know that tool trucks only come around maybe once a week.
You want to go check out what's in the van?
Now Dave knows that his NAPA Auto Parts store delivers parts multiple times a day to his shop, and they carry the professional line of Carlyle tools. Carlyle offers quality tools with a lifetime warranty on his hand tools and a significant savings over mobile tool trucks. And you can forget about the weekly payments and expensive finance charges.
Just pay me, every week for the rest of your life.
Carlyle Tools, as close as your local NAPA auto parts store.
Back on the one to go signal in the TobyChristie.com 120 at Phoenix International Raceway, coming up on the final 5 laps of tonight's Monday Night Racing, round number 5 of season 2 at the old Phoenix International Raceway, the 2008 edition of this racetrack in the Valley of the Sun. Nick Sanchez has led a good chunk of the last 20 laps, but we saw how hard Roger Kuruk fought to get back to him, how hard Garrett Smithley has fought to get back to the front after getting moved out of the race lead early on. It's taken him all race to get up here. Plenty of drivers with plenty to fight for at the front. Green flag back out in the air, and Sanchez got a fantastic restart, arguably his best restart of the night, maybe potentially the same for Garrett Smithley, as Roger Kuruk tried to clear himself behind the 51 and didn't have enough room, so he goes sideways, then gets shuffled out of the way as Will Rogers gets to the inside of the 99, and here comes Anthony Alfredo to take away a spot from Raja.
He certainly is. They're going to go side by side down into turn 3 and 4. Nick Sanchez grinning from ear to ear now as he has a 0.4 of a second lead over Garrett Smithley as the caution is out once again.
Big wreck over in the dog leg. Same sort of pileup that we've seen on the front straightaway a few times tonight. Same sort of deal here. Let's see if we can backtrack where it started. I saw Max Kinnon and Paul Sutton get together. That was the first incident I saw in that bunch, but I think the answer here comes from Drew Welker in the 64 machine. Contact with Max Kinnon out of turn 2 is what starts all this.
Yeah, tough break for those drivers, especially for Paul Sutton, who had a tough break during his heat race and now gets caught up in a couple of incidents. He's been beaten around like a pinball pretty much all race long, as he just had some tough breaks here as they come off turn 2. You see that contact that he gets collected up in here off turn 2 with Steve Font and Max Kinnon, and we'll have to come down and get that car fixed.
Nothing that Sutton, I think, could have done. Kinnon just spun straight into him. Same for Mark Rabillos, who had nowhere to go. Brett Baldock caught a little bit of damage in this as well. I think Greg Stubb just was able to get all the brakes in time to avoid damage, and don't think there were too many other people besides Stephen Wilson who got tangled in this. Looks like contact between Wilson and Ron Capps. His number 28. Capps was trying to get to the inside to avoid the spinning cars in front of him, and he clipped the 25 right in the center of the dog leg. Wilson had enough sense to at least loop it around and back it into the fence instead of going head on into it, but still big loss of track position for the number 25, who just has not had a lucky night tonight.
No, certainly not. And we'll have to see what he can do as we get ready for the next round. What's next Monday night? As we get ready to come to a close for this race. I think we might be okay to where we won't have a green-white checkered attempt, but it's going to be a close.
Very close indeed. We are coming to lap 79 now, so this would need to be the one to go, and even then we are in our green-white checker attempt because the lights are still on the pace car, so we will get one shot to finish off this race. And given the way it's gone, if you're Nick Sanchez, you really like where you are sitting at this stage.
Certainly are. I mean, you have the freshest tires. You've been getting the best restarts here, so you have what it takes to get ready for this opportunity to take home the win and redeem yourself after what happened to you last week over at Michigan in the super late models.
Really big moment for Nick Sanchez and Garrett Smithley too, who I think if he can maintain this track position, even if he doesn't get the win, if you're Smithley, you have to be proud of the way you've rebounded after getting shunted out of the lead early on, being buried back in as deep as 17th in this field, and Smithley has clipped them off one by one to get back to this point and just have a chance to race for the win.
Certainly does, and he definitely had a great restart last time by, be able to get that second position away from Rajat Kuruk. So if he's able to pull it off and get a good jump on this start, he could have a chance to go side by side with Nick Sanchez into turn 1 and battle for this race win.
It all depends on just what kind of restart Nick Sanchez gets. That to me is the big thing to watch. If he gets it right here, it will be very tough for anyone to catch him, and he had a really good restart that last time by, so if you can replicate that one more time, that might be it, because I'm not necessarily convinced we're getting back to the white flag on this. My hunch is we may get yellow before we get white. If we do, The field is frozen at the moment of caution, and that is how they will finish. And in all likelihood, that means Nick Sanchez will probably be the winner. But nothing is certain in Monday Night Racing. So we'll watch this restart and see how the TobyChristie.com 120 at Phoenix International Raceway pans out. It's Sanchez and Smithley, your front row for this final restart of the night. Waits to go, waits deep in the box, waits deep again, and it was not near as good of a restart. I wonder if Sanchez waited a little bit too long. Will Rogers got a great restart to get right behind the 96, and it's Rogers that will go to second instead of Garrett Smithley.
Garrett Smithley, though, will battle back on the outside lane as we see Anthony Alfredo watching and waiting. He gets turned, though, as he gets around, and more cars spinning around out of control. They go below the out, now back up onto the racetrack. Will the caution come out? No, not yet. We are still green flag as Nick Sanchez and Garrett Smithley and Will Rogers battle for the race lead.
They are dead over in turn 3 just about. Track was blocked. We'll get the white here. We're going to race this one out between Sanchez, Rogers, and Smithley.
Battle into turn 1. Here comes Raja Kuruk as well with a head of steam off of turn number 2 for the final time down the back straightaway. Nick Sanchez, 0.2 of a second lead over the rest of the field.
Nick Sanchez is there. Looks like we're going to get through 3 and 4. This is where they wrecked a lap ago, so no incidents there. And it's a great battle for second between Will Rogers and Garrett Smithley, but they don't have enough to catch Nick Sanchez in the 96 as the track gets cleaned up and the lap car comes in front of Will Rogers. But Nick Sanchez out of Miami, Florida gets the victory in the TobyChristie.com 120, his first win in Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring Competition. And it was a wild finish at the end as the lap car came up into Will Rogers, but there are about 3 or 4 different incidents we need to take a look at. It was Greg Stumpf that was trying to get himself straightened out and just could not hang on to it and slid right up into the 65.
Yeah, I don't know what he was doing there. I mean, that car was completely damaged. I mean, I think it would have been probably better just to get that car towed instead of coming and staying out of the way, as more cars are still having damage and making contact off the final.
Well, there are 2 incidents to take a look at before we go through the full field rundown and tell you where your favorite driver finished. And we'll start by going to the very big one over in turn 3 on the penultimate lap of this race. That's what caused the melee in the back here, and it was off the restart. We'll wind it back and see if we can figure out where this started, but it looks like the answer is somewhere between Nick DeGroot, Jeff Green, and Ryan Vargas and Anthony Alfredo. Alfredo was the first to get turned out of turn 2, like you said, Taylor, and then it was just everybody trying to get everything they could from there, and it was absolute madness from then on out.
Yeah, we see that a couple of cars coming back up onto the racetrack. Brian Vargas, Jeff Green, Nick DeGroot, they come up and just collect the rest of the field, taking everybody with them. A couple of cars were able to survive that, but it's pretty much a traffic jam right there as they enter turn 3. There is nowhere for anyone to get around. I'm surprised that the leaders were able to get through turn 3 and 4 before the field, was able to clear out.
Well, the leaders were able to get there, and most of the field was cleared out, but not Stumpf in the 78. There were a few that were stuck on the inside. They were out of the racing line. Stumpf was the only one that was sort of in it. So whether or not it was a car break, whether or not something else happened, we won't know. And I imagine that'll be something that the administrators of Monday Night Racing will look into. But what we do know is that it was a mess and a half after Alfredo got turned. There was contact between, I think, if I am counting it correctly, all of Vargas and Sexton and Jeff Green and Matthew Selkness and Nick DeGroot. There were about 5 or 6 different cars that got turned. Partis went up into the fence. Gabe Wood had nowhere to go. I saw Kyle Busch on his lid in the middle of all of that. The 39 machine of Robbie Lyons was sideways. I think, not confirming, but I think that Hardy's look-alike machine of Jesse Vaughn, yes, he was involved in this. Dylan Welch was in the mix there. Preston Partis sideways again. About maybe 15, 20 cars genuinely close to half the field caught up in this incident with 2 to go.
Let's just try to find the cars that were not involved with that incident. Probably safer to say instead of those who were involved with that incident here on the final lap here at Phoenix. But still some great racing towards the end. Nick Sanchez, of course, finally getting the win here today at Phoenix in the street stocks.
There was a lot to process. There was a lot to go through. between those two final incidents. But at the end of it all, it is Nick Sanchez who gets the job done. And we now turn to the full field rundown to tell you where your favorite driver finished, starting with the 96, win number 1 in Monday Night Racing for Nick Sanchez, who put together a strong run in the Arc Menard Series East earlier this year. Garrett Smithley with a fantastic rebound run to finish second. Third was the 99 of Raja Kuruk. Will Rogers, even after the contact with Greg Stone, finishes in P4 at the end of all of that. Matthew Stolkinick, again, just grinding out top 5 after top 5 after top 5. He does it again to get a 5th place run tonight. Gary Sexton with a strong finish. He was 6th. Chris Wilner and Seth Eggert and Ron Capps and Brandon Brown complete the top 10, and every single one of them started outside of the top 20. You want to look at beneficiaries of that big melee at the very end of the race? I believe those 4 were 4 of the first ones to sneak out of it. They come away with really strong finishes this year.
And Monday Night Racing Season 1 champion Nick DeGroot will come home in 11th, followed by Noah Lewis in 12th. Now get this, Steve Affan started dead last, 40th position. He comes home in 13th. What a drive for him tonight. Jeff Green will come home in 14th, followed by Chad Reed in 15th. 16th goes to Dylan Welch, followed by Cody Moore in 17th. 18th goes to Robbie Lyons, followed by Devin Henry in 19th. Rounding out your top 20 is going to be Mark Rabelis.
21st tonight was Paul Sutton. Stephen Wilson was 22nd. 23rd this evening was Michael Massey, and 24th belonged to Jesse Vaughn. Preston Partis finished in the 25th position. 26th went to Josh Slade. Drew Welker was the last car in the lead lap in 27th. 28th to Anthony Alfredo. Brett Baldeck, Greg Stumpf complete your top 30.
31st goes to Garrett Miller, followed by Jason Kepler in 32nd. 33rd goes to DJ Cummings, followed by Ryan Vargas in 34th. 35th goes to Gabriel Wood, followed by Kyle Busch in 36th. 37th goes to Ford Martin with Max Kennan in 38th. 39th goes to Stephen Ellis, and Bobby Labonte will finish 40th.
Your full field rundown there for you in this TobyChristie.com 120 as we now turn to our podium interviews. And a quick note from race control after the incident at the end of the race. Garrett Smithley has been declared the 3rd place finisher of tonight's race. And Garrett now joins us in the booth. And Garrett, just that last lap was something to behold. But your race in particular, I think, was special just because you had to fight. You got sent up to the fence, all that damage at the very beginning of this race, and then you had to climb through the field and pick everybody off one by one by one by one. When you got into the fence, where was your head at? And what was your mindset as you were climbing your way back through the field?
Well, my head was in nowhere good. I can tell you that. First off, just qualifying pole in a series like this is really cool. Man, these street stocks are a blast. I mean, they are absolutely a blast on iRacing, and the Legacy Phoenix is a lot of fun too. And just like the racing itself, I hope everybody out there was entertained because that was so much fun. But no, going back to the incident, I think it was super early in the race, lap 10 or something like that. Everybody wanted to run really aggressive, and I honestly kind of backed off because once Anthony got under me, I was like, okay, well, let me back off and find a hole to get in. And I couldn't find one because the more I backed off, the more people were filling the holes and just couldn't get there. And then I don't know what happened. I'll have to go back and watch the replay, but I know he got hit and sent us in the fence, and unfortunately got some damage. And it was definitely a struggle to get back up. But one of the cautions, a bunch of people pitted. I knew right then and there. I said, you know what? And I was streaming at the time. I'm still streaming, but my stream said, don't use your reset. Don't use a reset. Gotta save it. And I was like, you know what? With these street stocks, the tire fall off isn't a whole lot on these things, and I've been bitten before by pitting late, so I knew that I was going to take that reset, fix the damage, take my tires, and then not pit again, and that was my strategy. And fortunately it worked out to bring us home. I guess I was second, but they gave it to Will because of that deal in the last lap. But still really awesome race.
And a big hello to everybody watching on Garrett Smithley's Twitch channel as well. And so I think for you, you've got the most on-track experience in the podium finishers, so we'll turn to you with this question in particular, because you think about it and you figure drivers who have made it to Cup like high horsepower, high downforce, lots of ability to control your own speed. And that is not what you have in these street stocks. They are low power, they are low grip, they are not great cars in that sense. So if that's the case, what about these street stocks makes them so fun to drive, especially for drivers who have been there and done it at the top level and seen what it's like?
Yeah, I actually made a comment during my stream. I was trying to time the restart correctly, and to do that, you usually lag back, half a car width behind somebody, and then try to gas it up as the leader goes. And I was quickly reminded how low horsepower these things are, because maybe lagging back in a Cup car, an Xfinity car, you get that big run. You can't do that in these things because it takes so long for them to get spooled up. They're just fun to drive. They're lazy. You got to put a lot of wheel into it. Very forgiving. It's a very forgiving car. So if you miss the corner, you can gather it back up a little bit easier than, say, a Cup car. They remind me a lot of the 87 car that just came out, and I love running both of the cars just for the simple fact that they're big spring cars. They're lazy. You got to put a lot of wheel into it. And you can slide them around, and you can beat and bang. That's what makes racing, especially in this league, a lot of fun. Beating and banging. I know there was some tempers flaring there a little bit towards the end of that deal, but all in all, it was so much fun. Shout out to D Natters with again. I think I'm gonna keep this primer gray scheme. What do you guys think? I like the testing primer gray scheme.
I think the bigger question here is, what does the Garrett Smithley Twitch chat have to do to hear you sing a Disney song after a good result in Monday Night Racing? Are we waiting for the win, or does that come with the podium finish, or what?
No.
What's our agreement there?
So I'll go ahead and say, because I know you guys are going to be going off the air, so I don't want to take away from y'all's broadcast. But in about 10 minutes, I'm going to be singing "Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer" on my stream. So we are going to get that going. No, I don't want to do it now. I'll give you a little teaser. Grandma got run over by a reindeer. All right, you gotta get the rest of it over at my stream.
I will say, Garrett, I like the twang in that. I thought that was really nice.
Oh, when you're singing that song, you gotta put some twang into it for sure.
Little bit. Garrett, congratulations on the podium finish, and thanks for the time tonight. Job well done here at Phoenix.
Thanks, guys. Shout out to Victory Lane, Quick Oil Change, Trophy Tractor, Fort Worth Screen, and Whitetail Smokeless. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Garrett Smithley P3, and I think we may have a raid set up here pretty much automatically after that. But we turn now to the man who will get second place tonight, Will Rogers. A very successful night in podium competition. Highest average finish between the Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge and Monday Night Racing. A 1.5 doesn't sound too bad, and he is with Taylor Burris.
Well, started out over in Lime Rock Park in Connecticut and just got all the way over here to Phoenix, come home in second here in the street stock. We are here, of course, with Will. Will, tell us about how the race was and the conditions out there for you.
Yeah, quick trip across the country. Jet's pretty fast. But no, it was good. Really had a lot of fun at Lime Rock in the Indy car. That was a pretty wild race, and jetted over here to have another wild race. It was a good time. Obviously, a lot of adversity, I think, was fought by everybody in this one. I qualified, I don't know, somewhere in the top 10 or just outside, and got up to, I think, 5th or so, and got knocked out early on. Was in a big one, was upside down at one point. Had to take my reset, and I think I went from almost all the way in the back to ultimately finish second there. So pretty decent, happy with my last two podium Monday Night Racing events here, and hopefully I can continue this good streak.
Now, Will, a question that we have to ask is, how are you able to keep a calm and cool head, keep focused, even though you might have got caught up in an early incident where you feel like, your time is done, you don't think you can have enough time to get up to the front, but how are you able to keep focused, keep that cool head, and just keep on putting down lap time after lap after lap to continue to work your way to finish second place?
I think for me personally, I'm one of those guys that doesn't race on adrenaline, and that definitely transfers to the sim. I usually keep a pretty level head. I mean, everybody gets those spikes of anger or disappointment or something along those lines, but I try to just, maybe let the moment last for 30 seconds and then flip the switch and say, all right, it's time to go back to work. And kind of in one of these instances where you can't really get many runs on these cars and everybody's so even, you just have to settle in and be patient. If you can be patient, hit your marks, make sure the guys in front of you try to take advantage of the mistakes the guys in front of you make. That's really how you do it, and try to strategize. I feel like tonight I was able to figure out maybe not so much of an advantage in turn 1 and 2, but 3 and 4 seemed to be a strong suit of mine because I could get underneath people and manipulate them through the center to the exit. So I think with that level-headedness, it helped me get there. So it was a pretty darn good battle with a few of those guys out there. I want to give Garrett Smithley props. We had a few little run-ins through the race. That's all good, but the last the last green-white checkered was 100% clean. Other than Greg Stump, of course, turning into me, but that was a good time.
Yeah, well, that was certainly a great race between you two on that final restart. Now, before we let you go, who would you like to say thank you to, and anyone you would like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, absolutely. Got to give a shout out to Space Station Gaming. They're a big group behind me that we've partnered up to start something new and fresh in the eNASCAR realm, I guess you could say. And everybody should be on the lookout for some new exciting things coming with our own league, but then also hopefully us competing in the upper echelons of eNASCAR. So give a big thanks and shout out to them and all of their partners. My partner over here, Jake Fisher, Gabe Herschel, and then Ryan Vargas is actually part of the team now too. So those guys are always here to support my iRacing efforts. And otherwise, thank you guys for putting this on.
Of course, and that is second place finisher Will Rogers with a great finish there, coming home in second. And James, I believe you finally caught up with our race winner out in Victory Lane, Nick Sanchez.
Hey, how's it going?
From the summer shootout to Victory Lane and Monday night racing, and with a little stop on the ARCA Menard Series East in between, amongst other spots. But Nick Sanchez, you are a Monday night racing winner. How's it feel?
Feels great. Probably like first actual esports win broadcast. It's a cool feeling. I usually wreck out of these probably before halfway, so it's finally.
What clicked, especially in the final quarter of this race, the last 20 laps, I think, it felt like you really figured something out. And I almost wondered, did the battling between Ryan and Raja help you as they sort of fell back in your rearview mirror? Were you able to take that time to figure out how to get around this place and make sure that you had the speed to hold everybody off when it mattered on that last restart?
Yeah, honestly, it was all just all about breaking the draft. So when I would pass Garrett and Anthony on the inside, I would make sure to hold them up enough where evidently my teammates Ryan, Will, and Raja could get on the inside. And while they fight, I could just break the draft and check out a little.
You checked out and had a great restart right before the green-white checker, and then they were all over you right as we started the final restart. So were you a little bit nervous at that point going into one, given that your lead had been chopped comparatively on the restart from about 3 car lengths to maybe 1?
Actually, once I saw Will got on the inside of Garrett and gave him a good battle, honestly, the nerve just went away because I know Will races pretty. I know hopefully he wouldn't wreck me for the win, but yeah, I was nervous there probably before that last year.
A little bit nervous, but you get it done, and it's an even shorter track we head to next week. Modifieds at Martinsville. Any initial thoughts on what we can expect to close out the 2020 portion of Monday Night Racing?
Honestly, I've never really raced Modifieds on Martinsville on iRacing, so it's probably going to be pretty hectic. A lot of track position, but it should be exciting.
Entertainment across the board, I think. But Nick Sanchez, a Monday Night Racing winner. Congratulations, Nick, from all of us at Podium eSports, and thanks for the time this evening.
Thank you.
Nick Sanchez, P1 tonight in the TobyChristie.com 120 here at the old version of Phoenix International Raceway. And Taylor Burris, a wild race, a fun race, which I feel like is both evidence of the skill level of all the people in this league and also evidence of just how much the sim has changed in 8 months. Yes, there were a few incidents, but on the whole, that's one of the raciest street shock at Old Phoenix events I've seen here in a long while.
It certainly has. That was very exciting as far as different strategies were called. A lot of drivers trying different lanes in order to try to make the most of their skills and capabilities here with these street stocks. Of course, all of us, when starting off on iRacing in the oval side, this is where we begin to get things started with our iRacing careers. And of course, they definitely showed that they still have what it takes to drive these famous cars here on the iRacing service.
And we go to an old school combination to finish off the 2020 slate for Monday Night Racing. We'll take a break in between Christmas and New Year's to get set for 2021. But before we do, it is the Modifieds at Martinsville. And for those who remember the old NASCAR Featherlight Trailer Modified series that would run 300 laps, sort of a predecessor to what is now the Valley Star Credit Union 300, the big late model race that Martinsville hosts every September. But those who have been around the sport for a while know how tricky a combo that can be, and also know how fun that race should be next Monday night.
It certainly is, and actually, as a matter of fact, in 2021, the Modifieds will return back to Martinsville. So kind of a little bit of a preview of what's in store for these Modifieds at Martinsville. So going to be exciting to see how these drivers handle the paperclip.
A tough one to round out 2020. Martinsville does not play favorites and does not give handouts away. But before we get to Martinsville next week, a few events to tell you about in the world of Podium eSports coming up. And it continues tomorrow night, 9 p.m. It is the penultimate round for the eNASCAR iRacing Pro Series for the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. We will be locking in drivers into the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series. I'm going to make sure I screw that acronym up a few times. But
try saying that 5 times fast.
Really. But in either case, we'll know some of the pros at the end of tomorrow night's race, and we will be at it 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitch.tv/Podium Esports. The McConey Center South Charity Challenge from New Hampshire Motor Speedway is 9 p.m. Eastern this Thursday night, December 17th. Fun event between McConey Setup Shop and Major's Garage to benefit all the folks in the Northeast. The Grit Ultimate Driver Challenge from Lanier's Dirt version is where we head to start off our campaign next Monday night. That'll be December 21st, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, Twitch.tv/Podium Esports before we're back at it with Monday Night Racing next week, 9 p.m. Podium Esports Facebook, Podium Esports Twitter, Podium Esports secondary Twitch, Twitch.tv/Podium 2, some of the places you can watch all of the action. A big thanks to everybody at Monday Night Racing for their help and support in putting all this on. For Martin, Paul Sutton, and the team that make it possible. And for our team at Podium Esports as well, Cisco Scaramuza, Gary Sexton, and John Theodore helping make our broadcast as slick as possible. And for our team on the broadcast tonight, for my partner in the booth, Taylor Burris, and my producer and the man making all the buttons and all of the graphics and pictures you see tonight look fantastic, Ryan Bauer, I am James Pike, the voice of Podium Esports. Thank you so much for watching our coverage of Monday Night Racing presented by Tufco Flooring. We now send you over to Garrett Smithley. We'll see just how well his rendition of Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer goes. We'll see you all tomorrow night.